Hey, what's up, nerdies? English Dave here for another nerdy bunch. Well, not spoiler free, but review. And I'm here with my co-hosts Raven, Rocket, Mike, and Mercedes. What's up, guys?
Hey.
We're giving you all the tea today, all the tea.
I feel like this is our first podcast where we're just going straight spoilers. If you haven't seen this show, all I'll say is all you need is 30 seconds to decide if you're in or you're out. 30 seconds.
Maybe like 45, because if
okay,
like
maybe 45.
maybe it's like the first 30 seconds didn't wow you enough.
There's two kinds of people in this world. You
No,
see that
wait,
moment
I said 45.
and you're like,
wait, what about
let's go.
what
Or
about
you're
42?
Like, fuck no.
42 for me was at 40. That's why I said you gotta give
Oh.
them, you have to give them until
Yeah.
at least a minute, because you have to win number 42 and then the iconic line and that whole symbolism. Like if you're not sucked in after that, you have no soul. Like you're just dead on.
So at that point, from this point on, this is full spoilers. We will be doing this podcast weekly, and again every week it will be spoilers. So make sure you've watched the episode. This is just our thoughts on what we think of this show. This show comes from Misha Green, the mind who brought us Underground,
which I've heard great things about. I'm gonna watch it when I do.
You should give us your thoughts, Raven. Once you do,
when I do.
That's it. That's all you got. She said, "When I do."
Raven has officially committed to doing a review of that. Thank you, Raven.
Yep.
Good job.
Good job, Raven. You just gave yourself some work.
More work.
Oh, yeah.
From producers JJ Abrams and Jordan Peele, which I feel like if you told me the two of them were going to produce a show, this feels like the love child of what they would create.
Oh, yeah.
And like crazy mystery surrounded by racial tension and social commentary, like fused together, had a love child. And it became Misha Green, and she created the show for us. Though it is based on the 2016 dark fantasy novel by Matt Ruff, which explored the conjunction between the horror fiction of H.P. Lovecraft and racism in the United States during the era of Jim Crow laws, as experienced by black science fiction fan Atticus Turner and his family. What I like about this show as well is that it focuses on H.P. Lovecraft is actually a famous science fiction or weird sci-fi, not straight science fiction, but that kind of weird sci-fi.
He's like one of the pioneers.
For like the
sci-fi.
Outer Limits and Twilight
like,
Zone, things
Cthulhu.
that are like, yeah.
Like monsters.
I feel like if you're a sci-fi fan, you've probably watched something inspired by some of his
Seems
work.
like the Avengers of sci-fi. He just ropes them all together into his stories.
Like, he's one of the OGs of sci-fi novels.
Yeah.
If you like movies like Alien or The Thing in terms of creature design, that kind of weird creature design, or things like H.R. Geiger would then go on to do. Fun fact, check out our Alien and Aliens Back to the Future, where Raven kind of explains about H.R. Geiger and his art.
Oh, yeah.
I think Lovecraft has that kind of style, inspired that style. So not the typical sci-fi that you see in Star Trek and Star Wars, you know.
Like
this
grunge
is more
science fiction horror.
This is more the horror side of science fiction. But what I like about this show as well, it doesn't paint him as a perfect in like this. Oh, we love H.P. Lovecraft. It's like, no, he was a racist. You know, like it doesn't. The show doesn't hold back from saying things like that. You know, and he also put out racist work as well. You know, there's the scene in the bookstore where he picks up the book and he says, "My dad made me recite his poem, his racist poem, so I'll remember who this person is that I'm reading. I'm loving his stories, but he's also racist." And so
and then he said he reads them anyway, though.
Well, I was going to ask you, Raven, you know, like the opening scene with the woman on the bus when he talks about one of my favorite books, A Princess of Mars, which is part of the John Carter series. You know, John Carter was an ex-Confederate, and she's like, well, you fought against the slaves, so you can't put X in front of that. But then his response is like, well, stories are like people, they're not perfect. But you try to love them and try and find the perfect
overlook
side
their
in
flaws.
them as well.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that. So like,
I did love that because it makes sense. It's sad because it's like even the same with us, you know, how like even though we're black, there's plenty of science fiction stories that we love where we're not represented at all. And we know that the director, the writer, or whoever, you know, doesn't love us. But we're like, oh, but this movie's so good though. You know? And it's like, it's tough, but it still happens, you know? So I do like that it dealt with that because you will have, you know, fans or people that will watch this and think to themselves, you know, oh, but, you know, H.P. Lovecraft was a racist. How could you make a show, you know, with a black cast and base it on his story? So I feel like this was almost the creator's way of being like, yeah, we know.
And I like how they touched upon that in one of the quotes where it was like, do you fault a man for having views that basically kind of define his whole identity. And when you are told something from such a young age, generationally, for such a long time, do you like they were saying like, oh, can you fault the black man for like wanting more, but then the white man for like not understanding why they want more, because they've been told something different too. Their whole rhetoric is determined by their entire like identity. So that's what that's also about too. Like, we can't change the fact that somebody poisoned these people's minds, like, at that point in time, but what we can do is maybe show it in a different light, and like we have a different show. We're not seeing the same sort of racial undertones and everything. Like, we're learning something new and seeing something different.
You touched on something there, because part of that conversation, when he's talking to that woman on the bus, he says, a poor Negro boy in Chicago can't aspire to these dreams, because every story is about a white guy who has these adventures in these other planets. I want to have these kind of dreams. So this is the closest I can get to these dreams.
I also wanted to touch on that too. I love that in subtle ways it was foreshadowing. Because, exactly. That's what this show is about. The show is about a little colored boy from Southside Chicago going on crazy adventures, and it's literally all he wants. But I do love that that's a backdrop and that's a hint. It's like, this is foreshadowing because this is actually the theme of this show. It's about what if we could, or what if we had, which I do love.
And it's like a true definition of like the people that are racist in this show. They honestly, like, it's sad to say, they don't know any better. It's just like years of generational like crap people fed into their brains, and now you're watching it like it's 2020, and you're like, well, I mean, I guess I see where that was going. It's not right, but damn. But it's I love the show. Is just awesome because it's
that brought up the. Sorry, no, I was gonna. It brought up the guide trips that the uncle was going on. I didn't know about that. I was like, is he saying guide trips or guide trips? And
I've heard about those. Yeah, there are books
the Green
like
Book.
That. Yeah, that's the Green Book.
Yeah,
it's basically scouting out areas that are safe.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I see.
Which I was like, what a brave man.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, because I didn't know about what the job entailed. So I do appreciate that this show kind of shedded light on that, because I learned a lot in just this one episode, which is crazy to say that, you learn something about true history through science fiction.
That and Sundown Towns is something I was only vaguely familiar with. I didn't know, especially at that time.
I didn't know it was a real thing.
It was so
There's
strict like
15
that.
minutes from
I
me
only
in Long Island.
knew they were a thing because Vice has that episode of the KKK like areas.
Because they still exist.
And those KKK remnant areas where, like, they tell black people not to go in 2020, whatever. I'm pretty sure those are still like the last remnants of Sundown Towns because they had certain rules, and now they're just able to keep it. So yeah,
like Burbank, California is one of them. I'm like, isn't that where all the rich people live? And then it's like,
nah, I know it all connects.
That
puts that into perspective, doesn't it?
That whole sequence with the Sundown Town was brilliantly
so
done.
Stressful.
Because I know.
I was gonna say, directing wise, like, whoo,
that's a brilliant.
I was watching it. I watched this at like 2 a.m, so I was like very tired before I started watching the film, and I mean the show, film. But either way,
it feels like a film.
It does, because it had gotten to a certain point where I went from being kind of tired to like the edge of my seat, like to like, and I'm like at home stressed on my couch, like, speed up, no, slow down, speed up,
Raven,
and then you're thinking of all the things that you would do, because it's like a part of you is like, okay, maybe you should just pull over and shoot him and then run off and escape, and I had that idea. I was like, shoot his ass. Like, I can't lie. I went through a lot. And then it's like,
but I love that
y'all got to the other side anyway, and people were waiting for you. So even if you shot him, you would have gotten hanged. So
and on top of that,
you're black. I'm sorry. It's the 50s.
I think it speaks to its time. Because even for us, right, as black people living in America, modern day, our instinct is shoot him. But that's our privilege of time. Because they're very much aware that what it means to be a black person on the run now for killing a cop. Like, if you want to live that life,
they're instigating that. They're like,
even now,
hoping
though,
you do
like,
something
I
that.
feel, we would be hunted down,
but
with torches and pitchforks in 2020.
What I love about that sequence, though, as well, is it speaks to how, even today, at the time and today, how, you know, the law, or people, you know, when you get these kind of white guys who are of the law abusing that, right? Because every little nitpick, when he's like, can I take a U-turn? Oh, this is clever. You know, because he was getting ready to stop him for a U-turn, or speeding, trying to force him to speed. So he's going to use the law to catch him and kill him. You know, as long as it was the law, because it was the law. As long as it's past sundown, I can take him out. And he's trying to instigate, and he's hoping for that law to be broken, and he's wishing to kill this black person. And it's the same way. It's no different to this Cooper lady, right? Recently, a couple months ago, who was trying to use the law to hope something bad happens to this black guy.
She's like, I'll make up whatever I have to make up, as long as this guy goes down. Then that's, you know, it doesn't matter what I have to do to get there, and I'll say it's in the name of the law, so I have an excuse. And you know, it was
let's backtrack a bit. Let's backtrack again.
Go on, back it up. Back it up. Woo, woo.
Back it up to the very beginning. You know, that intro sequence, right? We knew the show was going to go into the sci-fi kind of fantasy realms in some way. Usually, these kind of shows build up to that. Mike, when this thing just kind of pulled up from this black and white war footage to the color, and you just saw freaking space monsters, aliens. What was your reaction?
So first, I was already pretty hooked from the like 1917 type filming that was going in with the trenches, which is like that one shot as they were like, you know, running through and, you know, gunning down whoever was in the way. You're not quite sure what war it was at first, you know, and then as soon as he hops, really, as soon as he hops over that hill, I was like, where, what do I pick? You know, like what do you look at first?
I had to rewind that part several times, and I still feel like there's things I'm missing.
And I felt like you had your face, I'm sure if you looked at it in the mirror, was the same exact as his reaction when he came up over that hill. And so
did you guys notice the camera, the aspect ratio changes as you
does.
Well, here's the thing, from like,
it's subtle, but it's done so well.
So well.
It was like
I
a
knew
nerd's
it was
wet
going to
dream.
be good between the three of
cool.
you warning me about it. I was like, wait a minute. If my peoples are already sucked in 30 minutes in, like this shit got to be.
All three of us just message each other 30 seconds.
That's what I got on my phone.
I'm in it.
And I'm like behind them, and they're like, I'm in it. And I'm like, oh shit, what's happening? And even me, I was like, damn, yo, I wasn't ready. And they warned me, and I wasn't ready.
It was like the final sequence it was like the final sequence to Endgame. It's the epicness, you know, like
pretty much
epic war battle. Like those like Spartan women in the background. There was like War of the Worlds aliens. There was like a giant.
It was like, so you just did your boss battle 10 seconds in. Like, okay, that's what we're doing.
I forgot about the Spartans.
So ballsy, it just might work.
I know, me too. You just reminded me about that. I was like,
what time is this? Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I had no idea. My mind just was gonna burst.
And then 42 showing up. No,
42. That significance is great because again, when you get the context of the fact that this is all a dream, you realize that these are all his heroes in his head. And you know, if you look at the context of the time of Jackie Robinson, right? He literally was a hero. He came and
he's the only barriers,
you know, right?
Literally, other than musicians at the time, you know, it's like Jackie Robinson was the man.
Exactly,
huge hero at the time.
Literally came with the bat, like
breaking barriers, smashing down barriers with that bat,
destroying the monsters. You know, like, and I love that. And it told us a lot about. And let's go into characters. You know, it told us a lot about Atticus. You know, from the very beginning that he's dreaming about this, and then with the book, you realize how much of a nerd he is. Sadie, I'll start with you. What did you think of Jonathan Majors and the character of Atticus?
I feel like this is finally a piece of work that I've seen him in that like I truly like. I've always liked him as an actor, but I feel like I love him now. He's kind of played roles where he's a little bit timid. He's kind of like the shy thinker. Like even in the Five Bloods where he was like the teacher wishy-washy wasn't my favorite, but this I felt like all of those pieces kind of clicked because he was like the true definition of a dreamer. You know, he went into the military for adventure, not to like defend and save his country, to be a hero. It was never an intention to be a hero. He wanted to go to see, you know, the world, but it just so happened that the only way he was going to be able to do it was to fight this war.
But
so
on top of that, sorry to cut you off. On top of that, he says he left because of his father.
So
he said he left to get away from his father.
Get away from his dad. So he's a by any means necessary type of person, and I think that's going to conflict with his dreamer personality because there's going to be aspects. You know, we've seen little Easter eggs already that we're trying to piece together about his personality, and I think that's going to conflict with some of his morals and things like that, and how he's going to change and become this person. So Jonathan Majors definitely, within the first episode, like he got me. Because I was like, you're not usually my favorite, but I love you in this.
And sure, it had nothing to do with the fact that his shirt just kept getting smaller as the show went along.
I'm not mad at all. I'm not mad. And it was so real. When they did Letty's scene, she was like, who that? Because that is what you say. Like, especially the way they call him Coke bottle glasses. Like, we know we're talking like gangly. And then that's what comes back afterward. Like, what? Okay.
Courtney B. Vance is one of my favorite actors on TV. I feel like he's one of those actors that when you see him, you know, you're like, he's going to bring something serious to it. He plays George Freeman. I liked his character because I think there's a lot more depth. He wasn't that typical uncle. If that makes any sense. I feel like there's the more depth to him, and especially his relationship with his wife. And Mike, you brought up his character about, he's the one that's doing this, this. It's not,
the guide.
It's not called the guidebook. Yeah.
Books,
Doing the guidebook. What do you think, Mike, is the secret he's hiding? Because when Atticus says, "My father told me about my mother," and he's like, and he says, "No, he's looking at the history of my mother." Did you catch in his face?
And he stuttered.
There's a stutter.
He stuttered too.
He
said, "What now? What?"
Yeah, I didn't know if it's like maybe he knows where his father is or why.
I think he knows something about his
something more about his
upbringing.
Yeah, he definitely knows something about his parents. Like either one of them. Then
I think infidelity was involved. I think him and mommy had a thing.
Maybe.
Me too, because I had realized, I put 2 and 2 together later. There was a picture that Atticus found in the book that was his dad's. He had found a picture of him, his dad, and I'm assuming his mom. Yeah. And later on, what's his name? George Freeman had a picture of that same woman, but in his wallet, and she was by herself, as if the other two were cut out of the photo. Why wouldn't you have your nephew?
I didn't watch that.
Yes. I think there's Raven. You're completely
right. Just an excuse to watch it again.
I think because I've seen it twice now.
I watched it. Yeah, I had to watch it twice. When I watched it the second time, there was so many things I was like, "What?" Like even the episode being named Sundown sounds weird, but it took me like. But did you? I was the second episode. I was like, "Yeah." Stress.
What I liked is the subtle ways that this show shows us racism and how real racism was in their life. It just even little things like the montage when they're going on the trip at the beginning, and you're hearing the narration, and the kids are doing the whole monkey thing at them. There's those little subtle things.
And it was in silence,
right?
It was completely dubbed over, but I still felt every single word of that insult. Like every monkey sound, I felt it, I heard it. It's almost like it was louder because there was no volume. Yep.
Or even in the beginning. In the beginning, when the bus breaks down, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not going on."
Brilliant editing.
I'm not going on that truck. So that's a racist man's truck, and I'd rather walk.
And I love that there was no discussion, there's no conversation. Nope. You just simply got up, grabbed his shit, and left.
They just both
grabbed that lady's stuff. Let's go.
But I think this plays upon I forgot what movie we were talking about in our podcast where it was talking about racial undertones, and we were just we wanted to see something different, and I think we finally got it.
Agreed.
We wanted to see more Black content, right? And we wanted to see historical times, but we've seen the whole like you said, heard the monkey jokes, we've heard the racial slurs, but how can we do it in a different way? And the fear is not the racism, and that's what we were talking about with the car scene at the end. We're sitting here thinking the entire time that's the scariest part. That's the scariest part to me, and that still is
because sadly, even if it was a Black cop, I'm scared of cops right now. Right?
That is
bugging the fuck out.
Terrifying scene. And then just to know that there's still 20 more minutes where they're like, no, we're gonna scare the shit out of you some more, and it's completely left field. Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Because it's somewhere. Yeah. I also feel like it's a good way to even just discuss everything that's going on currently still. It's y'all are fighting about race and there are literal fucking monsters.
Your planet's being overtaken.
And that's what's going on right now. Your planet is overheating and there's so many other things. There's a literal pandemic going on, but we're going to be racist. And I feel like that's what I like about this show too. I feel like this was the show's way of being like, you see how stupid you look,
Mhm.
you know, like, because I felt
See how
like
easy you forgot about all that.
The
you
end,
know?
the last scene,
yeah,
like, come
you
on.
see how stupid you look.
We
Come
can't
on.
even try
you know,
to work
like
together. Not even.
even the whole thing with the, you know, once, you know, they were all in the house and they were hiding from the monsters outside. I love that whole scene because it's like, dude, you're missing a whole fucking arm right now. You're still using one other arm to hold a gun at me? Are you kidding me right now?
And then
when,
when he's changing, the other guy's still kind of, are you okay? Bitch, he's
and
changing.
you're still
They're like,
listening to your
shoot
sheriff?
Like, guys, that's my face is because it's just like,
shoot him,
like that was just you know, because, but I also feel like it just further proves it's like this is the hatred, the level of hatred that it has to take to stare a monster dead in the face, get your arm ripped off by a monster, have all your men murdered by literal
kill you.
monsters. The monster in the room to you is a black man, and that doesn't make sense. You literally watch your man's turn into a whole vampire.
It was the longest turning scene. That's why I'm like, this is the longest.
I'm gonna wait until I get that okay, though.
Right.
You think you're gonna get permission to kill your sheriff?
I know Jerry.
You
He's
waiting
not
for
like
permission
this
from the
normally.
sheriff?
We can't be sheep anymore. We gotta learn how to lead, you know? Like, lead yourself out of that fear. And
you spoke of that fear, right? I think a great showcase of that was the kid at the diner, because he's like, oh shit, there's black people here, you know.
Not after what you guys did to Miss Lydia. I was like, ooh, what happened to Miss Lydia?
Yeah, see, and then I wasn't mad at him because like, what happened?
I loved how that sequence was played out.
Miss Lydia
gone with the White House. Why is the White House white? Because they were fixing.
I learned another fact.
I didn't know that.
I forgot about that. I definitely forgot about that. I was like, oh,
so much knowledge.
Dropping it.
I was like, whoa.
And just the way that scene is built up, from knowing that knowledge to Letty seeing the kid in the kitchen, and that building up to get the fuck out of here, to going out, and then from the beginning, those guys that they saw as they came into the town, those are the ones that are chasing them. Just the buildup was great.
It was the buildup of everyone's fear and how it boiled over into Sundown. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was so sad because like you were talking about the burning thing, and that's the fear of that poor kid. He's like, they are so racist. Like he looked like he would have served them.
He doesn't look like he was even.
But they're so racist that they killed their own person and killed the other people inside because she decided to serve them as a lesson. Like you can't even do it on the low. They burned her inside of that building with the other black people that she served.
I also love that this show dealt with that too. Like, because a lot of people feel like, you know, whether white, black, or whatever, feel like, why didn't more white people stand up to more white people? This is what was happening. Yeah. When white people would stand up to other white people, they get their restaurant burnt down, or they get hanged, you know, they get dragged out and shot down and all these other things, you know, too. So it's kind of like, well, this is the risk that you take, you know? And I do like that the show dealt with that too. They kind of showed every side of it, because it's like, for the younger generation coming up that maybe didn't have any problems at all with black people, that were maybe listening to, you know, black musicians, that maybe were fans of Jackie Robinson, you know, had to do that secretly because their dad knows or their family knows, you know, they're getting burnt down like Miss Lydia.
Yep.
So I do love that the show shows all of the different sides of it, because there was a Miss Lydia, you know. And I do like that they brought that up.
I like what you're saying. Like, it's like they show true compassion. And there's one thing that like to feel pity or to be like to make excuses for somebody's behavior, but this is like true compassion for the other side. Like I was saying before, you can't fault somebody for being shoved down like racist rhetoric their entire life. You can't fault somebody for, you know, if like they're a beta type personality and you just watch somebody get murdered for like just doing something you would do, like what are you going to do in that situation?
I want to talk about Janae Smollett. I think her character for me is
she's my favorite character.
Favorite.
She's mine. Yeah.
Her journey, you know.
I feel like she plays the shit out of this role.
She's great. I think there's a lot of complexity to her character, you know, with her sister, with her brother, that tense, you know, not going to her mother's funeral. But there's a line where she says to her brother, you know, you didn't have to live with her every day. So there's something there with her mother and why she didn't go to the funeral. So I think she's an interesting character. And I love that she's, you know, she's scared, but she's a badass. I love it.
Yeah. Also, I like that, you know, in the beginning, her character is perceived almost as like wild, but you don't know what that means. So normally wild when we see somebody in the 50s that's wild, you assume that they're promiscuous, like, and sexual, But I love that you end up realizing people's issue with her is that she's a rebel and she's out protesting. She's out breaking the law to do the right thing or what she feels is right, and her family is against that. You assume one thing, but they show you, like, no, the issue is that she's strong, that she, wants to break tradition and stuff like that, and she's fighting for it actively. And that's what caused a wedge between her and her family. Not necessarily that she's a bad person or that she's, like, a drug addict or some shit,
they probably felt some kind of way that she was the only girl in an all-boys nerd crew.
Exactly.
Like
she's just not a traditional, and like even when her sister said you should have leggings on, or you should have stockings on with that dress, she was like, what girl is hot? And she's like, you can't afford them, because I love that it deals with that. She's deemed as wild, but she's just different. She's what modern day is now.
Like, they probably put all this pressure on her because, remember, there's a whole light skin, dark skin thing. So, like, if people put pressure on you to be there and take care of your family, I remember back in those times, you're supposed to take care of your own. And she's viewed as not necessarily taking care of her own. She's taking care of other people. Back at that time, like, certain people, that wasn't okay. You have to take care of your family versus, civil rights movement. No, you need to come home and go to your mom's funeral. There are that parallel is drawn sometimes.
Yeah, the last thing we were talking about was her anyway, right?
Yeah, it's so rare that you have a female in a trio in a group like film, right? And then she's like now carrying her own weight and like being respected with the other men, and like, my name is Letitia fucking Lewis. That's right.
And she was driving by the end of that episode.
For those listening, we had a technical glitch. If you think that the conversation switched, it wasn't you, it was us. But yeah, I think what she brought to the character was a lot of depth. I think, like, so much depth to the character. She's my favorite. I think her she's not only fighting race, she's fighting gender.
Yep.
Right? Little girl.
She's fighting many battles. She's also light skinned. Like, there's a lot of
family issues. I love the scene where in the house. And then George says to Atticus, he's like, no, that's family stuff. We don't get involved.
Yeah, because he was going to get involved. And a part of me was like, he should. But then I was also like, no.
True, it's family stuff.
You can't get involved in family affairs, unfortunately. It's an unwritten rule.
Yeah, black people, we don't get involved.
We all just be like,
ooh, shit breaking. Like,
nah,
unless
that's them, yo.
Because then, then the police got to get called. And then it's like, all right.
They'd be like, yo.
But yeah, you don't get involved if they just yelling. Then they look at you crazy. Like,
nah, unless property's getting damaged.
Yeah.
Don't get naturally hurt.
Exactly. Unless you think the police are going to get called, that's the only time you jump in.
Right. I want to talk about the actual mystery itself. That sequence when they're running away and the silver car comes. You're thinking the silver car's an antagonist, and then does the turn. Was it just me, or did you notice that it hits nothing? The other car hits nothing and flips.
Oh yeah.
Force field. I noticed because I watched it 4 times. It don't hit nothing.
They did show the car earlier on too. Like it was parked. I think it was like behind that bar or something.
Okay,
like that.
So a couple of subtle hints about the car.
Yeah.
In the beginning. Yeah, when the bar owner is getting a blowy in the back, which I appreciate that subtle undercover note there. Anyway, with that being said, when he was asking about his dad, the bar owner had told him the last time I saw him, he left with some white guy who definitely wasn't a cop. He's probably a lawyer, but he said that he left in some really fancy looking foreign, like Ford silver car.
Yeah. He's like, it took off, so it must have been expensive.
As a hint that, so whatever this silver car is has something to do with the dad's disappearance also.
Exactly.
We assume it's the same guy at the end that opens the door. I'm assuming that's his
it is. Because the car was in the driveway.
Yep.
So then
the same car was in the driveway at the... I think that's like his sibling type thing.
Yeah.
Because she was in the car with him.
True.
She was in the passenger seat, but then again, it was like a British car. So I don't know, but it seemed like there was 2 people in that car.
That accident was done so well. You see the guy flip out of the car, like because the 2 people fall out of the car as it flips.
Oh yeah, the mutilation. Shit. Yeah, because like the production value on this show is just once again, it's just fantastic.
It's like JJ. It's JJ.
I know it is JJ.
I feel like that's the JJ Abrams aspect, like because I feel like Jordan Peele is great at creating like the scenarios almost, like because like Get Out, for example, is so many of our biggest fears without realizing it. And Jordan Peele does a good job of like bringing those subtleties to the forefront. But I love JJ because JJ is great at merging in the sci-fi element and being like, look at this monster though. Like I feel like it looks like JJ Abrams' special effects team worked on the special effects in this, you know?
Okay.
I feel like he didn't take it easy.
I also think a lot of credit should go to Misha Green, who's the showrunner on this. I think she clearly inspired by J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele and other things, because, you know, she was very adamant that the creatures don't look completely normal. They can be inspired by things, but they can't act normal. So that's why, like, those creatures, they, like, dig underground. Their mouths are inspired by sharks. I was reading up on it. But
they're like mole rats. They're like, shark
sharks with eyes.
When that happened, though, I was like, that's different.
Right?
Like,
that whole done the last 10 minutes in the whole scene is just
okay, yeah.
That's
you know,
a lot.
Let's talk about some of the monsters in terms of the mythology and all that kind of stuff. I feel like if
they're called Shagats.
Well, that's my nitpick, which might not be a nitpick as we go forward, because there's a lot of assumptions made on the sides of the nerds where it's like, this reminds me of a vampire. Put a light.
See, I think that's done on purpose. I think he has a secret, and that's why I'm pretty sure what you were saying, like when we love Courtney B. Vance, because he is such a cryptic, like strong classical actor that him just casually being like, I think I remember. Like, I'm sorry, that was just too played on to be like, don't vampires not like
this
light?
flashlight seemed to work. Fine.
Yeah.
But even Atticus, though, before the cop with the Sundown cop stops them, when they hear a noise in the background, it's foreshadowing. He's like, oh, that could be a shrubber or whatever he says it is. And he's like, oh, it's a creature with many eyes. And that's exactly what it ends up being. So it's just like, but they make a joke because in the actual description of the creature, this blob that moves slowly.
But Atticus is having weird dreams too. Remember that. And then he calls the woman in South Korea. We don't know who that is.
That's another thing.
That's what I want to know where that's
something weird is going on with him. So maybe these dreams, and then like he's seeing all this stuff in his head.
I'm also wondering if he went AWOL.
That's what I'm
like.
Maybe
he was in South Korea. He
was stationed there, and then now he's back in the U.S. So if you were to call back to your station, you know, you're AWOL.
No, I don't think it's AWOL, because I think they would have had to do more hiding while he's in the States, and people. You know, I think it's more that there's some mysterious stuff that he kind of saw out there. This woman is like, you shouldn't have gone home.
Yeah,
like, it's almost like some mysterious foreshadowing.
That was cool.
Not a person she's not saying, "Oh, I miss you, come back." She's like, "No, some bad shit's gonna happen to you for going home." Almost like she knew, like she's some mysterious kind of person, and I don't know who that is. You know, the way she kind of spoke about it, because obviously there's a lot of sci-fi and mystery, and even with his dad, right? His dad was looking at the genealogy of his mother, which is a big element of the story, and clearly his dad is right on some level. You know, at the very end scene when it says, "Welcome home, Mr. Freeman." So it's like a family lineage, you know, and we saw in the previews for upcoming where it's like they talk about this is your family legacy.
Exactly. And in the previews, did you know?
Because a lot of the names are Greek god names.
Yes.
So like Atticus, Hippolyta, which they call Hippolyta in this.
So, that's why I was like, there's so many great things in that little like excerpt that we saw for the previews, because now we can see why the wife is so thirsty for knowledge. Yeah. You know, if you come from like getting to see all that.
George Freeman, I was like.
And then Jamie Chung, can we give it up for Jamie Chung, who came from the real world and now is doing Lovecraft, and she's the red alien bitch, and now she's like doesn't have
you come
red. You come a long way. Don't let anybody ever tell you.
Deja Torres from John Carter. That's the character that she plays. The Princess of Mars.
Oh, so
she is the Princess of Mars.
That's the Princess of Mars.
She comes down with a red skin. In the movie, they made them have red tattoos, but they're supposed to have red skin.
Yeah, you're right. That's why I didn't get the red. But like, I was like, go ahead, Jamie. You know, when anybody ever tells you're gonna get pigeonholed, don't believe them. Jamie Chung is now on Lovecraft.
Okay, so before we close, questions for the future. This is a series. We've already asked one of my questions in terms of who's South Korea, who is that woman. But one of my other questions is, it might be the same person, but who whistles the creatures away? Is it the person they meet at the house, or is it someone disconnect? I
think it's the people at the house with the silver car.
It's the same thing.
Well, I don't know.
I think they're different. I think they're different.
There might be someone. Yeah, there might be a third party we don't know about.
Because I was like, why would they risk
always a third party.
their lives for that?
I think there are 3
because they were saying that there's weird stuff happening in the woods, and some people get out and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that
now
whole
we know, like,
woods
animals.
is
the whole woods is like weird.
Because again, there's a story when Letty's talking to her brother, he does mention that there's talk of creatures in the woods.
And the creatures are the people that get bit. If you notice, like because when he jumps out, the sheriff, he has like the Sheriff Hulk pants because like they're like I don't know why they're like shorts, but he runs out.
And I wonder if you know, because it's not her family, but is Letty's? Does she have some kind of narrative like how will her narrative connect to the greater fantasy element, right? Because it seems to be the Freeman family for now. But maybe she also has a connection in some way. That's why it was fate that brought her along. You know,
they both had 2 crazy parents, and like remember, they both have 2 like tumultuous childhoods that they had to run away from. You know, one from a mother, one from a father. So I think those parallels will definitely be touched upon. I mean, is it Sunday? Is it Sunday? Like
I can't lie. Like
I am not liking. This is the only takeaway from the show. This show sucks.
I gotta wait a week though.
I know.
I gotta wait 8 weeks to finish this.
Yeah, but let me.
I'm just not gonna have no answers until 3 months from now.
Let me counter that though. Do you think this is a show you could watch back to back without your head exploding?
Oh, I would probably like have like.
I think they should release like 2 at a time and still come out every week.
Now you guys would probably hear from my mom, be like, "Mercedes is in the hospital for like malnutrition. She like slept."
I feel like with all the tension though, it would also be like kind of tough.
She had a heart attack.
You're sitting at home
having
a whole panic attack.
Well, not necessarily a question, but more like a something I noticed. That means all those creatures were once people.
That's what I was just saying. Because like it didn't like when you watch the Sundown scene, they make it a point to do like frame it, Raven. You're gonna laugh. It's literally like pause it. It's he looks like the Incredible Hulk, but he's got the sheriff stripe on the side. So
when he jumps out the building, right?
When he jumps out, and then he runs into the little ground.
Yeah.
So it's just to make you understand that like these are all humans that were like previous.
But I wonder, do they turn back or are they like creatures?
I don't think so. I think it's over.
Like,
for
I think it's permanent.
It could be like a werewolf thing, right? Where they turn at night because you don't see them in the day.
Maybe that's why.
No. The thing that I like too about Sundown that I forgot to say is even the white people can't be over there in Sundown.
Exactly.
While he's sitting there talking shit about the black people. If I saw you over here Sundown doing blah, 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 oh, well, okay, the monsters caught you at Sundown doing some bullshit too.
I think it's exactly what Raven
said.
This
Sundown
is a literal sundown. You got to get the fuck out.
I wonder if that'll be like something that they deal with. Like if the sundown towns are because of monsters and not racist.
Yeah, and the white people aren't warning everybody.
Yeah, but the white people are becoming monsters
because they don't know how to deal with it.
So
literally,
they'd rather hide it.
Well, because they probably blame it. They blame the deaths on black people.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So either way, black people just shouldn't go there. But still.
I mean, yeah, we can talk forever about this show.
Wow.
We probably just sit
so
here
good.
till next week and then go watch.
Because there's so much symbolism. It's so good. We gotta,
Quick drops. Anything we
missed?
I
think just speculations.
Quick drops.
I love Joni Smollett's run. Her like sprint to the car from the monsters. I thought it was done very well. The fear run, where you're like so scared that you almost can't breathe, but you have to keep breathing because you're running. Mm-hmm. Like she did that very well.
But then she also has to remember to scream because she's fucking terrified because she can hear them. Because it's like every time she's running, she hears her like.
Yeah, her reaction to like the things in the trees was done so well. Because in real life, there's nothing in the trees. It's just the director going, ah! You know, or like somebody ruffling one branch.
Like
so I think she did it so well.
Spielberg.
Yeah, literally. Someone in the bush with a megaphone.
Yeah, Velociraptor.
You know, I like when she came crashing into the house with a car because she was like,
"Oh, so good."
I hope you guys moved. Crash.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
If not, then I guess I killed you all.
He said, "Fuck your uncle. You gotta get your ass in this house and close the door." Like that is some real shit. Because like,
get in here.
I had explained that to my boyfriend to be like, I loved her because that's real fear. Like, there's nothing we can do in this situation. This is not a situation we can fight. There's no knives or fire. Get in the house because every man.
Guns didn't work on it. We saw
exactly. She watched them shoot it. So
yeah.
what are we're gonna go out and save Uncle with our bare hands after we just watched somebody get ate?
Are we gonna punch out the monster?
No.
I will say I love the uncle's reaction to taking the flashlight from the dead severed hand. And he's like,
yeah, that was definitely
it was just still perfectly circular by the time you took
In
it
real
out.
life, I'd be like,
Can I tell you, and again, this is how I know my arse would have got killed. I was like, idiot, put the flashlight away, turn the light off.
yo, I instantly was like, come on, man, you have to see Jurassic Park.
Turn the light off.
Put the goddamn light out. Turn the
But
light
the light
out.
saved his life, right?
Yo,
it saved
that's
his life,
so
so we would have died.
It did.
I was literally
we
trying.
would have died. We would have been sitting there with the light off, smiling like they won't get me, crunch.
That's how good this show is. I was trying to find a problem with it, and when the uncle's like running to the house, I was like, "This show's so stupid." He'd run into the house with the lights on. He's not dead yet. Ugh.
Right.
And then he's like, "Oh, the lights saved them."
I had that moment too because at first I was like, why the hell he stay down so long? This dude's just chilling there. When I watched it the second time, I saw him get shoved to the ground by a police
Dude,
officer.
did you see the guy shove him?
And
Like,
also, yo, but I didn't notice that when I watched it the first time. So the first time I was like, if he don't get his ass up,
Somebody
and then I
pushed
watched it
him.
again. But then I also didn't pay attention when they were at the brother's house. He had said that both of his kneecaps were shattered during one of his travel guide trips by a group of white dudes. They shattered his
That's why he
kneecaps.
doesn't want his
So
wife to go by herself.
yeah, so
And he's
knowing
always
that
like-
when I watched it for the second time and he got shoved, I was like, oh, with those knees? Oh, he's not getting back up.
He was like,
He's
They
down.
make a joke. They make a joke of it before the Sundown cop comes, and they're like, "What's happening in the bush?" And he makes a joke saying it's the monster, the blob monster. He was like, "Oh, they're a blob monster." And she's like, "Oh, we can get away from them easy." And he's like, "Not Uncle George and his knees." So he makes a joke of that, and it was foreshadowing what actually happened.
like this show.
It
is
foreshadowed
so
everything because he
brilliant.
said it was a shogit thing,
Yeah.
which actually is a real thing from H.P. Lovecraft's books.
Which
So, yeah. So, I mean, hey, this kid knows.
want
Y'all
to-
got to listen to him.
I want to
And you know what?
quickly
She
touch
saved
on-
him from going into the bushes because if he went into the bushes, it would have
Yep.
started to get dark, and he would. That's what was rustling, like the. Yeah, that was it.
True, that's what they are.
I want to quickly touch on the George's daughter, the little girl. Isn't her name Dee?
Ruby?
I think she's gonna be a big thing. She's doing all the drawings, the comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's going to be dope.
I think
She's
she might
going to be like the
prophetic.
person on the phone. You know, there's always like some operator,
guy in
like
the
the guy in
chair.
the office. Yeah, there's always a guy in a chair.
She's the
gonna be the
prophet.
guy in
She's
the chair.
she's a super sci-fi nerd that's like the next generation that just grew up in it. You know, like she's creating her own comics and things like that. And
I was like, shit,
that
I want
she's the
that
one
comic.
I like that she draws on the maps like visual symbols to show where it's safe or not.
Can
And
we
then you see
talk
the-
about? Oh, go ahead.
the
sorry.
Sundown? Sorry, I was going to say the Sundown one that she drew, which was the Grim Reaper,
Reaper.
with a clock dial. And at first you're like, what the fuck is that? And then when the context, you're like, oh, that's what it means. All her drawings mean something.
So I think that's why if you flip
You
it,
have a
like I'm
time
gonna watch it
limit.
again. Each of those counties had like a special thing, so it's
She
like
has a
that was
drawing.
the Sundown. Yeah, there was the Grim
Yeah.
Reaper over that county, and then there was different like things.
Yep.
There were different.
There was a
clues.
castle. There was like a castle in one of them.
And that's
like,
what I was
it's the daughter who does all the drawings when she hears her parents having sex.
Yeah.
Ew.
But that's what I was saying, Dave.
Poor
I
thing.
think in terms of like story writing and theme writing, like she's like the prophet, kind of
Yeah,
like
she's gonna
the
be
one that can like she's gonna be something that's
Because
maybe
she's also a Freeman. It's the Freeman legacy, right? It's their
Yeah.
family. She's part of that family. So I agree with you. I think she's going to be something. I think that's it. Anything else?
yeah. We could talk for days. Yeah, I'm
Right.
sure there's
Nothing
something.
else.
I also think that sheriff's coming back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
I mean,
Why?
well,
they
this is
showed
why
I think
us-
Monster Sheriff is coming back in his Hulk pants. I
And
think it's
thank
gonna
Well, this is
you.
why I say. This is why
Why
I say.
do
What
the-
if they
why do
turn
the
back
Hulk
human
dance?
again? What if they're like vampires and werewolves, where they can appear human at certain times? So that's
True.
how
Do you
bring
think like
Sheriff
Sun Up, he goes back to being a regular person?
Because
Other
remem-
racist. So
remember when he's
werewolf?
getting info from Letty's
Exactly.
brother about I think there's rituals or some shit that goes on in the woods and the people are disappearing and blah blah blah. So if Dave is right and they do, that's why it's a true Sundown because you got to get out because if not, you're a part of the clan.
They're going to turn. But if you guys have your thoughts on this first episode, let us know. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. We'll be reviewing this every week. The reviews won't be as long because, we won't be talking about the same things. We'll try and keep these under 20 minutes. But there was a lot to talk about. It's a brand new show, so there's a lot of thoughts to get out. Get out. Did you get it? Thank you, Raven.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rocket Mike.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mercedes.
Thanks.
And with that, my name is English Dave. This has been a Nerdy Bunch review of episode 1 of Lovecraft County. I keep saying Lovecraft County. It's Lovecraft Country.
I
Country.
just
because
keep
we
saying
go from-
Lovecraft, like
Just say
dropping the mic and
Lovecraft.
dipping.
Lovecraft Country.
I just keep going like Lovecraft.
Here's a little fun fact. They mention Arkham as a place, which is created by H.P. Lovecraft, the location Arkham. It got so popular that people thought Arkham was a real place, and Arkham's also inspired Arkham Asylum from DC Comics.
I thought so, right? I was like, Arkham like Batman?
Come on, it has to be. Yeah.
Yes. Has to be Batman. What else?
Crazy, weird things going on. And on that note, Mercedes, hit them with it.
Keep it nerdy, y'all.
Keep it nerdy, guys.